All right, now I have a buddy who's got a 268, and so I figure I'm going to be working on his saw eventually. Now, I mentioned that there's a lot of compatibilities between the Jonsered 625 and the Husky 268. They are built on the same chassis. Now, I think there are a few differences in the very early versions of, say, the 625-2 like this and maybe the current 268s. So I wouldn't say for sure you could take this crankcase and everything on it would fit. It probably won't. But a lot of parts are. Oiler type stuff is interchangeable, and as it turns out, so are all of the clutch parts. The clutch drum assembly, whether you're using spur drums or rim sprockets, the oilers are the same, the washers, the worm gears, everything. So I've confirmed that, and that's fortunate. And I knew since I'd be working on a 268 eventually, I figured I'd just go ahead and get the updated clutch parts, which are better than the original one. Now, the original clutch that you saw when I did teardown, they're actually in perfect shape, so I do have them. But it was a spur sprocket, and I don't prefer those. This is going to be my own personal saw, and I really think that rim sprockets are superior. So at any rate, now at this point, we're going to put this washer in place. That goes on first. And that's going to ride up against that ridge on the crankshaft. And that's the original washer. And here's the original worm gear. It's in pristine shape. And like I said, I confirmed that it's exactly the same part. The 268 version, and this is the original one for the 625. All right, so we got that in place. And because I like the rim sprocket, we've got the complete new part for that we're going to fit. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is fit this washer. And incidentally, why don't I show you there's the part number for the complete clutch drum assembly using a rim sprocket. And it comes with an 8-tooth rim. And I actually hate that. Those are really only relevant for bigger saws and torquier saws. You're actually you'll increase chain speed, but you're going to reduce torque, and so you're going to have poor performance in the cut. Not going to go into all of that, but just trust me. I would not recommend going with the 8-tooth rim sprocket. Go with the 7-tooth. Okay, and so as we get prepared here, I'm just going to take a little bit of grease and get that packed well in this bearing. Actually, for this saw, you really don't need to do that as much as you would for a newer generation saw and for saws made by Stihl. The reason for that, see that little hole right there? That accepts grease. And there is a hole on the crankshaft. Maybe you can see, I don't know if you can see it there. Right there. And that's where that grease is going to come out. And it's positioned right where that needle bearing is going to be located. Make sure you're still in focus there. All right. Anyway, when we got that greased up, let me clean my hands. We're going to pop this washer that comes with the clutch drum assembly. It's part of the assembly, although you can get the parts separately if you need to. That's going to set there. Okay, so then you have this plastic washer. And that has, this side with the notches, has to interface with your clutch drum assembly here. So it's got to ride up there. This is kind of recessed here on the edge. And that's for that washer we just installed. So it's going to kind of sit like that. Okay. Now I'm going to pay attention to the notches on the worm gear. Okay. Here's the drum assembly. Here's my 7-tooth rim sprocket that I got. OEM, Husqvarna. And I'm going to kind of position, see, I got a notch right there, a bump out notch on that worm gear right there. And so I'm going to make sure that I have one of these notches on the edge of the drum assembly kind of lined up with that as best I can so I can get it to drop in place. And if it doesn't drop in place perfectly right away, then just wiggle it like I just did there, and you see how it dropped down. Okay, so everything is installed and in place. I'm gonna just wipe up with my finger, remove some of the excess grease. Let's use a rag instead. Just gonna do my best. You know, you can't avoid crap getting in the drum assembly, but it actually does a pretty good job of keeping itself clean. So a word of advice when you're packing your bearings and then when you're re-greasing them, say weekly or every couple weeks, don't overdo it. 1, maybe 2. You shouldn't need more than 2 shots of grease, because what's going to happen is it'll come in around the housing here inside your clutch drum, and you'll get a bunch of gunk build up and it'll get greasy. That could help the clutch potentially slip when it's not, you know, real rigidly engaged. So, you know, anyway, just something to think about. All right, so I said that the updated parts, right, for the Husky will fit the saw, and so I'm opting, because I got other people that have 268s that I'll be servicing. I can reuse those old parts later, and they happen to have spur sprockets, so I'll probably use those old spur sprocket from this for them. So I'm going to fit the brand new updated clutch, and there's the part number for that. Okay, so I just ordered these from Husqvarna off of their website for the 268. Okay, and so now we're just going to, by hand, tighten that down. Now, I can't fully tighten it down, right? You know why? Because I don't have my cylinder assembly up here. You know, there's a lot of torque involved in that, but I'm just going to, you know, hand tighten it for now. And so now we've got an install on our clutch. I'm going to go ahead and protect that until we're ready to actually slap the cylinder on. So there's the gist of it, other than tightening this down, which we will do at some point. We've installed our clutch, our oiler, and we're well on our way now to get ready to install the cylinder assembly. Bowman out. All right, guess what? I found another issue I didn't know I had with this saw. Okay, it turns out that the little plastic washer that is, or nut, whatever you want to call it, it's actually a threaded washer, fits right here. Okay, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I noticed that I didn't see it, and it was still functioning well. The remnants of the old one were still sitting behind the stem, but it had broken since I took the saw apart. And that's a common problem, and those are terribly expensive, you know, a few bucks for some little washer like that. So I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a couple little E-clips in there. So all I had to do, I didn't even have to take all of this out. I just picked out those broken parts, left this in place. There's a little notch at the end there where that washer goes. And then, you know, that basically keeps this in place, and then you can use your tensioner. It's crucial to have it there, because if you don't have it there, this whole stem comes out and you can't even maintain tension. So, right, there's a lot of uses for E-clips. Here's a pack that I got online, probably a lifetime supply of them. And so, as it turns out, a 4 would probably work, but it's a little loose. A 3.5 millimeter E-clip is perfect. And I put 2 of them there to just try and take up that slack or that space that the old washer took up. And, you know, I've used this on 395s, I believe. I know I've used it on 288s and 281s, you know, and it works fantastic. So give that a whirl. As soon as those little plastic nut threaded washers end up, you know, breaking on you. And so now that we have all that solved, we can put the old guide plate, metal guide plate, which is still very good, and pop that in place. So, hey man, she's starting to take shape. All right, so again, we don't have the cylinder attached to this yet, but there's really no reason why we can't at least loosely fit the flywheel. So we got the Woodruff key here. Need to make sure that that's installed. Let's see here. Not always an easy thing to do. It is going to fit tight. There, you can see I got it in place. Okay. And I had done a pretty good job cleaning up the flywheel here. As you can see, it had some gunk on it, but it wasn't terrible. So I'm just going to line up the key slot there for that Woodruff key. And I don't think I have the Woodruff key installed right, because I can't get the flywheel on. There we go, I just didn't have it aligned correctly. Okay, we got that on there. And then this particular saw didn't come with a flared flywheel nut, so the design on it, it has a washer. So for now, you know, we're just finger tightening things. We will get things locked in and tightened once we have the cylinder on, so that we can utilize a cylinder stop. But the reason why I like putting these on at this stage is now I can do things like move the crankshaft easily using my right or left hand, and that'll come in handy actually in the time when it comes time to install the cylinder assembly. So I think, you know, our next videos are probably going to be associated with you know, getting the intake boot, impulse line, all pre-installed on the cylinder, lubing up and installing the piston, getting as much of the carburetor at least loosely fit as possible. It's actually an advantage to do that first rather than after the cylinder is installed, because there's issues here with clearances, and it's just easier to do it that way. So I guess we will be dealing with the piston probably next, and then the cylinder assembly. Bowman out.